Flat Earth Podcast family, how you doing? Little bit of a change to the podcast tonight. I sat down to record a podcast on my own, but then had the opportunity to sit down with my good friend Shabazz L Graham. He's been on the podcast previous times. He's one of my best buddies, like I say, contributor to our content so far. So we sat down over Zoom to talk about this madness, this Will Smith, Chris Rock thing. Now I know there have been tons of videos on this. You're probably sick of it by now. Who knows what's happened since we recorded this? Probably loads more stuff. But we thought it was good enough. It starts talking about that situation, that moment, but actually goes on to talk about wider stuff going on with men and violence in society and stuff like that. I don't know. It just went to some good places. So we thought we'd throw it up. We hope you enjoy it. We had some struggles with the audio, so at points there is a little bit of echo business, but just try and put that aside. Do me a solid, will ya? If you're watching this on YouTube, just go ahead and press the like and subscribe and the little kind of bell icon and select all. If you want to find out any more information about the podcast, go to the flatearthpodcast.com. There you'll find information about all previous episodes, link to the Spotify audio, blogs and such. And there's also a PayPal button on there. If you want to click on it, make a donation, buy me some carbon fiber clogs or, you know, a portion of the moon or something. I don't know, it's up to you. Whatever you do, whatever money you give will go towards improving the channel and having more content. Anyway, bless you guys. I hope you enjoy this conversation between me and Shabazz. I did. I love just kind of chilling and hanging out with Shabazz, so I hope that you enjoy this. Without further ado, let's get on. It's a long one, so let's get on with it. Later. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. We ain't got no time for small talk, Shabazz.
You've been slapped in the face recently?
Mate, I feel like I've been slapped in the face. Now, you know, I might be wrong about this, but I don't feel like anyone else is talking about this thing. So I thought it'd be good for us to do a video.
What else is there to talk about?
So many videos on this. But I thought that we could probably, you and I, you often think about things quite differently to me, and you've got your own life experience and stuff. And I've got a particular take on this, or part of this that I think people aren't really talking about is something that's really kind of messed with my noodle a little bit. So, yeah, I don't know where to start, man. As of today, Wednesday, when did this happen? Like Monday night?
Was it? It feels so long. No, it was Sunday night.
Sunday night. So Sunday night our time, right? This thing happens. And
I wake up Monday morning and my wife says to me, "Have you heard?" As though like I'd had a telegram while I was sleeping. I literally was fast asleep, but it was everywhere already then, Monday morning, to the point whereby as soon as I woke up, my wife thought I would know about it. And I was like, no, what happened? She goes, at the Oscars last night. And in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? She showed me the picture. Yeah. And the picture was of two men. Yeah. And I was like, what is that, first of all? One of them looks like Chris Rock, but who's the other?
Yeah.
Will Smith.
Who would believe it?
And I'll be honest with you, mate. It felt it's a weird thing, but it feels like the world has changed. It feels like there was the world before the slap, and there was the world after the slap.
Really? Okay, go on.
It's crazy and it's bizarre. It's because so much has changed off the back of that event, and that's probably why it's creating the ripples that's leading for us to actually have a conversation about it now. It sounds, with so much else that's happening in the world, it feels like such a small thing, but in a weird way, it's a huge thing. I can't put my finger on why. Partly it's because so many kind of idols have been crushed with this. One of them is Will Smith. Will Smith's like the darling of Hollywood. Everyone loves Will Smith, and now he's, unfortunately, this incident has now contributed to a tarnishing of his legacy, and so it's that's probably why so many people are talking about it.
Yeah, definitely. I've been through the gauntlet of, like, you know, there was the initial, you see it, you hear about it, and it's that initial kind of world star shock, just like, no, do you know what I mean? Just like a shock, because it feels like a movie, because it's movie stars. Like whenever movie stars do movie star shit, it doesn't feel real, right? But then you sit with it for a while and you go, oh, no, it's real. And then you start. So I went from like general like entertainment to shock that Will had done it.
Yeah.
To then all the other complications that everyone's talking about with Jada and the marriage and all this stuff, to eventually a position where I'm at now, which is I'm focusing more now where my mind is stuck now is with the acceptance speech.
Okay.
And the angle that he came with, the energy he came with in that moment.
Yeah.
It seems like it's maybe not easier, but it's quite clear cut. The first part for me, he was offended either for himself or on behalf of his wife, and he lashed out at a smaller, weaker man. That's quite that. I don't think, and I haven't heard anyone. Actually, that's not true. There are some people who are saying he's not in the wrong, but most people will admit, it was too far. It was inappropriate. It's just. I know there's some people who are just crazy going the other way, but most people are just saying this is a bad look.
Yeah, 100%.
And opposite off-brand.
Yeah.
Let's not
off-brand, and that's the biggest thing. If this was someone who had form in this level of kind of dealing with, people saying bad jokes against your family, if this was someone who was, we would expect to walk up on stage. The joke probably wouldn't have been uttered, but at the same time, we wouldn't be as disappointed as we are, because I think the biggest emotion is disappointment. It's the feeling of you should know better. Truth be told, I'll cut to the chase of what I kind of feel about this. I actually feel that we're seeing, unfortunately, and Mr. Smith, if you see this in years to come or any time on the internet soon, please hear my heart with this. I do feel that we're dealing with someone who is unfortunately having somewhat of a mental crisis right before our eyes. Because I'll compare Will Smith to one person. In my whole analysis, I'll compare Will Smith to one person, and it's that one person that I'll compare him to that I think helps me to understand what is happening with the person that Will Smith is today. The one person I would compare Will Smith to is Will Smith. I'll compare Will Smith today with the Will Smith of yesterday. Yeah, those are the only two people that we can actually compare and work around why this is wrong, not just because it's against the law to actually assault someone. Wrong, not just because millions of people are watching and you're setting a bad example and it's a ceremony. A ceremony, you don't really act this. You don't take it to the streets in the ceremony. You deal with it in a cordial way. But why this is wrong for Will Smith and the Will Smith of today versus the Will Smith of the past. The Will Smith of the past, and this is why people are so disappointed. We're comparing who this man is today to who Will Smith was yesterday. Will Smith was loved, absolutely loved, because he was not your stereotypical angry, quote unquote black guy. He wasn't your stereotypical kind of like, he wasn't your stereotypical diva, your Hollywood superstar that kind of like needed things to be chilled. And obviously we don't know what he is like behind the cameras, but from what we've seen and heard, everyone loves Will Smith, and never has anyone kind of put a bad name against him in the way of being an aggressive, angry guy that's going to walk up and smack someone. So the Will Smith, I'm asking myself, what's happened with the Will Smith of yesterday? And yesterday doesn't mean like Fresh Prince Day. I'm talking about yesterday, like last year, the year before last. He's been quite a stand-up guy. He's had a very good reputation. The Will Smith of yesterday, I don't believe would have done what we saw him do on Sunday night. And that's caused me to say, well, what's happened or what is happening with this man that might require him to need more help than just say accusations of guilt and everything. And you've touched on I think you hit the nail on the head in regards to the speech itself, outside of the slap, the speech itself, and him, showing no remorse to the person that he's just smacked, trying to justify his actions in the name of protecting women, and God made him do it, and the devil, blah, blah, blah. I think it exposed some aspects of the cracks in this man's mental crisis. That's all I would say.
I think for me, I think you're right. There's definitely been a sea change in how he's perceived, but for me, I think, and this is where I think it was Candace Owens talked about. We saw the real Will. Now I know you can't take someone's worst moment and say this is who they always are, but I remember like for years when I was when I was pastoring, and people in churches, they want to act a certain way, they want to pursue a certain kind of life, and they'd be really when they messed up, they'd be really like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what came over me, and this, that, and the other. And I always used to say to them, well, look, you know what came over you? You came over you.
Yeah. Wow.
Life squeezed you, and your elaborate mask, your elaborate scaffolding that you put up for the world to see, it slipped. And like the scaffolding, and you popped out and you slapped Chris and you run back into it, man. And for me, it's like, that's not all he is. He's not a violent, aggressive guy all the time. But I think that there has been a prolonged life here lived in the spotlight, and the PR has been largely, like you say, good, well received. It's very polished. It's been very particular about this. And I think that, I think he's a man on the edge, and I think he has got some issues he's working through, and let's hope he gets through it, right? But I think what we saw there was actually a genuine expression, and what we saw in the speech was false. And that's what's jarring for me. I was like, oh wow, like what
I think he thought it was true though.
Maybe, but that don't make it.
Yeah, it don't
true.
make it right.
Yeah,
I think he believed it at the time.
Do you know what I would love to know? I would love to know what speech he would have given if he hadn't given him a slap.
Oh man, the speech would have been beautiful with it. Come on, man.
No, but would it have been that? Because if
it
you
wouldn't have been that for sure, 100%.
No, but he came out and straight away the speech was apologetics. It was appeasement for the action he did in the name of the role and what he learned from the role, and now his new, as he said, a call on his life from God to protect people.
Yeah.
Now, was he going to come out with that if he hadn't done this moment? I don't know.
No, 100%. I think in truth. So here the thing. In Hollywood, there's this subconscious kind of underlying desire for a number of superstars. You must remember, Will isn't an actor. No. He's a superstar. Yeah. People like Clint Eastwood, Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, they're bigger than just your average actor. They're mega stars. And Will Smith fits into that category. But for a man like Will Smith to never have received an Oscar, most people there, and this is what I think caused the standing ovation.
I thought he had. I thought he won for Ali. Why didn't he win for Ali?
He should have won for Ali. Totally.
It must have won Best Picture time, because I remember someone saying this is his first Oscar. I was like, no way.
That's great. No, it's been a thing in Hollywood. Tom Cruise hasn't got one. I don't think Tom Cruise has got one.
No, Tom Cruise got one for Magnolia, bro.
Did he get one for Magnolia? Okay.
Yeah, I think
so. That one's been put to bed then. But there's a number of other small people on one hand who haven't received it, and Will's one of them. So I think, and someone kind of compared the Oscar ceremony for this event as his wedding ceremony, which is probably the whole thing about his wife.
Wow.
The irony is crazy, but it's like the best man has just been slapped by the groom for saying a bad joke about the groom's wife, because this was like his wedding ceremony where he was going to receive the ring of the Oscar for something that he loved and treasured all his life, which is his career. And it felt as though that had been spoiled by this incident. But the speech of Will accepting that Oscar without having slapped Chris Rock would have been phenomenal, because everyone wants him to get an Oscar. And I haven't seen King Richard, but I've heard he's done a phenomenal job.
It's a great film. He should have a great role, man. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame, but for me, I just, like I say, like I've kind of dealt with the aggression and all that and what happened. And truth is, we can throw around all day what their marriage is like, this open marriage thing they've got going on, right? But we don't really know the details of it beyond what they've said, which is they seem to be happy, one more than the other, I reckon, to kind of have other partners, right? And that for me goes right against his brand, which is really a weird thing, but it's out there, it's done, it's been, the whole red table thing's been monetized and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So I was like, whatever, man, I can't know that stuff. It's not for me to know that stuff or even really care. But for me, it was just a juxtaposition of the silent aggression, right? Other than when he rants afterwards, but in the moment, just silence, walking up. And I don't know if that was part of it to not give away, I'm about to dash you in the face, right? But then the very lyrical, very meditative, very deep acceptance speech. Do you know what I mean? And I'm at this stage in my life, he says, I'm being called. There's a call on me from God to protect people. There is a call on me to love people. And then he says, and to be a river for my people. These are epic words. Do you know what I mean? And like you say, if there was some semblance of these would have been in a speech without the slap, it wouldn't have jarred. He would have gone, it's a fluffy speech, but bless him, man. Do you know what I mean? Like it's Will. Of course, it all sounds bang on.
Yeah.
But the slap just goes. It just goes delete. It just goes. You know, Control A, select delete. The slap deletes the speech for me. And for me, I said this to you the other day, man. This feels like Hollywood snake oil, right? I was saying this to someone, like, Hollywood always wants to sprinkle a little bit of God on things. Do you know what I mean? It was my destiny. God called me to do this, whatever. Whether they win, lose, or something's successful or something's not. And it's just like, bro, like, own it. Just own it, bro. Like, don't say God was calling to something and you failed. And then don't say, I love Denzel. I'm not going to speak a word about it. I won't have anyone speak against Denzel. You know this, right?
Denzel didn't mean that though, bro.
I know he didn't, but for him to use it and say, look, basically, God's calling me to this thing and the devil's trying to stop me. It was like Will trying to kind of, I'm trying to step back from this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not involved in the it didn't ring true for me. And it felt like, you know, these Hollywood people are so cloistered and so like in their own little thing. They're
in their own reality.
But it upset me because, like, you know, you and me, we're men of faith. We try and follow God. And yeah, just like Will Smith, we mess up. And we are a work in progress, just like he said on his tweet to Chris the following day. Yeah, we're a work in progress. But at no point do we claim our mistakes to be the call of God.
Of course.
The mistakes are us.
100%.
And the call of God is still in our life. But, you know, and I guess for me, listening to things the last few days with his marriage and all that sort of stuff, I'm like, oh, dude, I think there's a lot of stuff. It's like if you poison a tree. You can poison a tree and it can still grow a season or two. It might take a while, but inside it's already dead. It's already done. You know, was it you drive a particular copper nail or a poison nail into its bark, and slowly it still looks like a tree for ages, but it's rotten. I feel like maybe for him, like, bless him and his marriage there, like it feels like there's some rot in there.
Of course,
you know.
Well, one of the institutions that you can't play with without there being consequences that impact society, but also definitely impact you as an individual. One of those institutions is marriage.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much emotions that are, you know, wrapped in it that we sometimes think that we can, you know, throw it out to the public to have this kind of public marriage, an open marriage, a marriage that requires, you know what I mean, constant scrutiny and constant commentary, of which comedy is. So, you know, Chris Rock probably thought it was open season because of the openness of their marriage. Doesn't justify him, but I'm saying you almost can't do that to a marriage and not expect consequences. Yeah. And the irony here is because of the, you know, past, you know, sins within that marriage or the past issues within that marriage, Jada's been open season to comedians for years because of the transparency of her having an open adulterous affair with one of her son's friends. Everyone knows to be August. And Will, in essence, hasn't been, you know, able to defend the honor of his wife for so many years. A lot of people would see it as being cathartic for him to now, at the wrong time and in the wrong way, try to defend the honor of his wife in an open ceremony such as the Oscars. Oh,
you can't defend what's not there, man.
Let me just quickly plug my laptop in. It's giving me a low battery. Give me a sec. Oh, dude, I thought it was plugged in. It's not plugged in.
Raw, man.
Look at that.
This is amateur hour here, Shabazz.
It really is, man.
Ever since you retired from filmmaking, man, it's been a shit show.
Oh, man. That was close. Normally it just dies.
Dude,
wow.
That's good, man. Were you like 1%? Did it give you that, like...
It gave me the flash. You know what? That must have been the cooler God, mate, because that doesn't normally do that.
Oh, man.
It just normally dies.
You got to watch out, man. That must have been a good bit because we were high and the devil come to get us, bro.
Dude. But here the funny thing with what we never like to do, and this is one of the things that I really look into when it came to Mr. Smith's apology or his remorse or lack of it. We at times can look at the devil as being this external force, as he so contextualized him in that speech. A much more clear thing would have been to say, okay, what was the devil in me doing? Because I've just basically abused and assaulted someone, which is against the legal law, not just against the moral law, but against the legal law, which is against the societal law, which is against the ceremony. There's not police kind of like, or guards manning the front of an Oscar stage for a reason. It's because they expect everyone to act with decorum, grace, professionality. So you can't turn around and say, I'm here to love people when you've just slapped someone who you're supposed to love.
This is what I'm saying.
It kind of contradicts itself. And you can't use an illegal act to enforce the love that you say you are now wanting to demonstrate for your wife.
And that's the snake oil part. That's
it's unfortunate.
You're trying to sell me something miraculous. You're trying to say, look, God is working on, and God is working on, is trying to be in everyone's life, right? But you can't, the way he spoke about in his acceptance speech was as if he's cooperating with it. But like you say, in that moment, he wasn't cooperating with God's blessing and God's will. He was like doing a whole other thing, man.
I can't stand the God of Hollywood sometimes, I'll be honest with you, because the God of Hollywood is like this flippant
I know that, but I guess it's just an extreme televised example of what lots of people do, which is to kind of like vaguely claim that God is doing something
that justifies their action
when he wasn't, or to justify some behavior, or if you say God's working on me, then it's like, okay, well, hands off you then. Okay, God's doing it. We won't mess with you. And anyway, the devil's messing with you, according to Denzel. So it's a hard night. You chill. But then, like I hear at the after party, he's taking photos and stuff and pretending to slap people.
No way, dude.
So what I heard, man, I don't know if that's true. That might be me shooting from the hip, but I heard those photos out there of him and his family, and then with people at the party, and he's doing like pretend slaps and stuff, man. Yeah, so it's difficult, man. It's difficult to love Will. He's making it hard to love, man. Do you know what I mean?
This is what I'm saying about
even iRobot can't pull me back, man.
This is what I'm saying about the comparison of Will today and the Will of the past. Something's happened that makes me look to the Will today as being, you need counseling. I do believe that there's counseling that's needed to help you really address what this is. And I know people have read his book, and in his book he speaks about his father being violent to his mother. That stuff can you can pull in trauma into you that you kind of like conceal and you try to suppress. And at certain points it will explode. And obviously I think that was an explosion. But here lies the thing that no one's really speaking about. It's not just the slap or the speech. The casual walk back to the chairs.
He looked like he was like...
He looked kind of smug and like for me, he looked out of himself. Like I said, he didn't look like he was being watched by millions of people.
It looked... That's why so many people thought it was a joke, because it looked like a performance.
The reason it wasn't a joke, for sure, like Chris Rock never stumbles on a joke. And he didn't know what to say after that.
I'm not saying there's no hoax. Chris Rock, he was rocked, bro, literally rocked.
To have Will go back, and here's the thing, Will's a man hardly ever swears. Like, we've never really heard him swear in films, and when he does, it feels weird because it's Family Guy Will. It's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So to hear him be as verbally abusive to Chris Rock on the stage after he's just slapped him, no remorse, no. Like I said, I think if he was in his quote unquote right mind, the mind that he would have been in the past, I think he would have slapped him, walked back to his seat, and said, "What the hell have I just done?" Even if it was just an outburst of anger, it would have been a sense of even just putting his hands up, looking at Lupita Nyong'o behind him, and just saying, "You know what? Sorry, I've tried to honor my wife by dishonoring every woman in this building, every child that's in this building, every person that's here for the ceremony, dishonoring Questlove, who Chris Rock was about to announce the winner of the documentary. And so the fact that we didn't get that from Will, and Will's a very respectful man, he would have normally done that. To have him sit in his chair casually and start saying, keep, to Chris Rock, what is it? Keep my wife's name out your effing mouth. To say that twice.
Yeah.
Not aware of what you are doing right now, Will. You are burying the legacy that you've spent so long establishing. You're burying the character, you know what I mean, that you've created. They say that character is demonstrated under pressure, true character.
Yeah.
Is this the real you, Will? And if it is, it's horrid. And we wish that you had absolutely kept him away because you're ruining so much. But I looked at that and I said, here's someone I think doesn't realize the gravity of right and wrong. He's not able to measure how wrong what he is doing is. And I think that's why he needs the counseling. Yeah. And that's why I think that this is a mental breakdown or a crisis that we're witnessing in real time. Yeah. And the lack of remorse that came with it, I think just further contextualizes that.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting thinking about, I know he's an exceptional person in the regard of how he's lived his life, how famous he's been for so long, how much money he's got, the people that are around him, or rather the people that aren't around him, normal people. Normal life isn't around him. He's not going to the corner store to get some milk. He's not like, oh shit, man, the battery's gone on the car, I've got to buy a battery. Nothing like that. But I wonder, like, is he become a bit of an emblem of like men, like where men are at with, it's very hard nowadays to know where to put your rage. Yeah. For the things that come out that are raised up in your marriage and your life, and then outside, and then work and work for him. And I'm not trying to softball him. He's had an exceptional life. He's a very lucky man. But it's a life. It seems to me a life where you're always on. Do you know what I mean? And the persona that he attached himself to at some point for some reason was the nice guy, get on with everyone, kind guy, and no one can maintain that the whole time. No one is that. Do you know what I mean? And like I said earlier, when we saw him explode, that wasn't out of character. That was his character, but that's not all of him. That is his character at a worst moment. Yeah. But it was something real, a glimpse of him, like, oh shit, And then, like I say, the chameleon comes back in the speech to try and finesse his way out of it. But for me, I'm just there going like, oh wow, like how many other men are not at a ceremony and not at some televised place, but just have this rage. And society is telling them, well, you've got to believe this. You've got to back LGBT, and you've got to back all women, and you've got to back this model of what a man is. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to have this atmosphere, and you've got to appear this certain way on social media. But actually, for all of us, there could come a Chris Rock moment. Do you know what I mean? Where someone gets in our way in a fairly uneventful way, and we just lose our shit.
But this is why
Do you know what I mean?
One of the key things with what I think we need to acknowledge who we are so that we can prepare for the worst moments that will impact us one day. If we don't know who we are at that moment, we will lash out and become the stereotype of who we think we're supposed to be. And to Will, for example, at that moment, he has this kind of sense of what masculinity looks like, which is a man must defend his wife's honor by walking up to another man and smacking him around the face, which really and truly is, it's street honor. It's not real honor. There are people in prison right now regretting killing someone because they said words against them. And so I think society right now, we're tying ourselves into webs about what a man is and how we should act or not act. And one thing Will says in his book,
what honor is,
he feels like he's a coward because he lives, I think, under the shadow of this cowardice thing. And I think a lot of that has come from, obviously, what he has or hasn't done with his marriage and how his marriage has kind of, when he sat around the red table talk with Jada and she shared what she shared with him about August, a lot of people felt their heart go out for him because he was such a restrained man and he showed so much restraint in how he handled that situation. I'm not saying he's an angel himself, but like I said, their marriage is on a public stage, and on that public stage, when you put something on a public stage, such as the Red Table Talk, you invite criticism, or you invite questions, or invite comedy, and you invite memes, and they, to some degree, have done that, and it's resulted, unfortunately, in people seeing him as maybe less of a man because of how he has conducted himself. And so I'd say that to say
that's heartbreaking. That
he might feel like he needs to show that he is a man, and he does it in the wrong way, I think, and at the wrong time to the wrong person. And that's heartbreaking for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, the red table moment was really difficult. You know, the clip that everyone's been showing and stuff, where, you know, he talked about the entanglement and stuff. And there's a certain point where his wife just sort of says, "Oh, I don't feel like I've done anything wrong. I haven't got anything to apologize for." And I'm like, whoa. So she had a very open fling, and maybe we all had ones that weren't open. That's the rumor, right? The rumor mill is they've both put it around a bit, right? That's the rumor, bro.
Yeah.
And but that she was like overtly public with it. But for him to sit there and her to sort of say, "Well, I don't feel like I've got anything to apologize for. I don't feel I did anything wrong." And then seeing last night the reaction, and then the immediate reaction is like, there isn't an immediate apology. There isn't an immediate, oh shit moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just go like, are all the values there all jacked? Do you know what I mean? Have they been so submerged in an environment where they've changed the price tags on what's honor and what's dishonor? And because, like you say, this thing, you can say, well, he was defending his wife's honor. And that's what I hear everyone saying. And I'm like, wow, like, really? Do you know what I mean? Like, where was that? I don't know how many months ago that she started the Red Table thing and did that and wrote books and made millions out of it and stuff. And essentially made him look crazy. And, you know, stories of them being on holiday, and she's got the man on holiday, the family, the family are there. She's like, anyway, you guys good, I'm off. It's bad times, man.
Ouch.
It's bad times.
I think this is the thing. You can try and you can justify your actions with a desire to almost demonstrate some level of morality. Like, I was doing this for my wife and for the women, but it doesn't stop the fact that what you did was wrong. You know, there are, like I said, there are people in prison that have done. You know, I said to someone today, had that slap. We don't know what's going on in Chris Rock's neck or his head. Had that slap of knocked Chris Rock out, or killed him. People have been killed with one punch or one slap, or landed in the wrong way. But him,
this ain't a movie, though, man. Like, it's rare. But yeah, I hear you. It's rare, but
like, that guy was paid millions to be there by the Oscars. Had Will Smith have knocked out the Oscars host, and that thing had to either be cancelled or they had to, have a break. I don't think the Oscars, would have been given to her. I think there would have been more penalty, more consequence. But that's what causes me to almost, just a quick side note, I really respect how Chris handled it, and that he just continued as best as he could without trying to make a show of it. Doing his best to just represent the fact that he's there to represent other people. It's not like his jokes were his jokes, but that's just Chris Rock. But I'm just saying, had that have gone pear-shaped, because that's the thing, when you slap someone, you can't choose the actual consequences. You have a choice to whether to hit or not, but you can't choose whether someone falls and breaks their neck, or whether someone holds it, or whether someone hits you back. I mean, that could have turned into a full-blown, fight. But, thank God it didn't. But therein lies, for me, the dilemma in the lack of conscious effort to work out that this is the wrong thing to do, and this is the wrong place to do it, and this is the wrong time to do it. With that not being present in Mr. Smith.
Nowhere near present.
And then for him to continue, like I said, from the...
and that's what threw me, man.
It made me feel like there's something more at play here.
When he was like, keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth, right? My reaction when he gave the speech and said God was changing me, I honestly felt like saying, keep my name out your mouth. Like, I was like, don't you own it, bro.
Wow.
If you are raised like your mama raised you, bro, if you are the guy that you've been selling us all these years, right now own it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have cost him anything. It wouldn't have. He apologized to everyone else. He apologized to the Academy.
Yeah.
These old white guys, man. These old dead white guys, right? It like dusty up in a mansion somewhere. He apologized to all those people, but not the guy he hit. Now, that, like you say, that makes it clear that there was something computed.
But
there's something not going on there.
I mean,
but and it's not unforgivable, but it's just, did you hear Jim Carrey's take?
Just
on
before
this?
you say that though, he doesn't become the rapper. And this is why I compare the Will Smith of today to the Will Smith of the past, because you touched on it. Him swearing and carrying on like that is out of character, because his mother found, as a rapper, I remember he was a rapper before an actor, his mother found his scrapbook one day and found a lot of expletives and swearing, and she told him off, and from that day he said, I'm never going to become a rapper that swears. I'm never going to become that guy, and that's probably why we haven't heard him swear. If he swears in a movie, it's like, oh my gosh, Will Smith just swore.
Yeah.
So to have him in the actual Oscars swearing at the top of his lungs, it's out of character.
Yeah.
And it's
with a real kind of angry swagger, man.
It was with a threatening swagger. If Chris Rock had continued, he would probably got up and gone to full blows with him.
I know, man. Like, because like they talk about you can have a psychotic break, can't you? You heard of this? Psychotic
I haven't.
Break?
No.
But a psychotic break is when there's such an intense moment happens of overwhelming anger or hatred or whatever, and you literally, it's almost like when temporary insanity is a plea that you can put in court if you do something. Something happens to your wife, you suddenly you wake up and you stab someone because you just lost it. So psychotic breaks can be a bit like that, where you can have this moment where you're just overwhelmed by your feelings and passion and adrenaline, and you don't quite know what you're doing, and then you come to at some point.
Wow, that
and
sounds...
and it's funny because, like you say, the casual walk up, the amazingly well executed slap, just money, and I've got to admit, like outside of this, it was such a cool walk away, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, he walked away and he just got adjusted his little waistcoat. I was like, oh man, that's so, if this was a movie, this would be so gangster. But then he sits down and then he goes from that silent swagger to, like you say, just this crazy, like Hoodsmith, just crazy. And then by the time he's spoken to his publicist and had a hug from Bradley Cooper and a high five with Denzel Washington and, I don't know, Puff Daddy give him a kiss or something, right? By the time we get to the acceptance speech, he's back to Will.
He's not really back to Will.
He's not really back to Will because he doesn't have the relational intelligence to go, oh wow, I should just straight up say, I don't know what's going on with me. I apologize, and just straight away clean it, and then do your speech. And then
here's what I would have expected a Will Smith to say. First things out of his mouth.
Yeah,
that was not me.
Yeah,
I actually don't know what come over me, Chris.
Yeah,
I'm speechless right now. I can't actually accept this award without first saying apology. My apologies to you, everyone watching. Yeah. That for me, that feels like the Will Smith. The emotional intelligence to recognize wrong and not try to justify or wrap wrong around this sense of I'm going to justify my wrong by saying I'm just like Serena Williams and Venus Williams' dad, King Richard, because he was a defender of women. I'm like, this is a really slow car crash. But now you know what? As well. It's the speed. It's the speed as well in which he gets up, because I didn't see. So you see him smiling, looking, and you don't see him looking at Jada, but I heard he does look at Jada, and that's what causes the switch.
Yeah.
The speed in which we then go back to Chris and then hear him walking on stage, in that speed, in that moment switch, it almost feels as though he just saw red and he didn't see anything else other than I've got to do something to this guy, and that's troublesome. But you mentioned Jim Carrey. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, did you see Jim Carrey's interview take on this?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so he's doing publicity for Sonic 2, the next masterpiece, right? But he had a hot take. He had a hot take that I think was legit, straight down the line. He was like, he didn't have a massive go at Will. He was like, I saw a man in deep pain, essentially. But he said, but if I was Chris Rock, today I would be suing him for $200 million because that was assault. I was like, yes. Yeah. And I've heard other people say, I'm really glad. I think it's good that Chris didn't press charges. I'd be pressing charges, bro.
I don't think it is good. I don't necessarily think it's good. It's obviously it's between him and Chris, but it sets precedent. And I think the precedent that's been set now shouldn't be set. Like you can't get away with that. It's not.
Yeah.
You actually can't. And I don't want to compare him to anyone else because he's not Harvey Weinstein and he's not anyone else. He's Will Smith. Let's not try and conflate the issue of Kevin Spacey and Will Smith. Like they're two different people, two different crimes. This crime should be given a harsh, immediate, swift punishment. And I think, someone rightly said that the punishment should have been done quicker than now, just so that eventually when and if it does come, if the axe does fall, it's going to hit a lot harder because you've almost got to backtrack. And so I think at that point in time, had someone have come up and said, tonight, we've had a word with Mr. Smith and we've asked him not to accept his reward. We're going to keep it on ice till later. Just to let everyone in the room know that you did see what you did see. You did see an assault here tonight. You know, this isn't it is Hollywood, lights, camera, action. Do you know what I mean? But it is still reality. And in reality, we don't teach people that you can walk up and assault someone. And especially a comedian. Comedians get themselves in trouble all the time with what they say.
And that's
comedians need to be protected at least.
Yeah, I mean, I follow a lot of comedians, man, on social media and podcasts and stuff. And their conversation's been about that today, you know what I mean? And most of them have been saying, look, this isn't now open season on comics. No one's going to do this. This is an extraordinary situation where, you know, that one guy was like, I think it was Rogan, said, Will knew there were no repercussions physically for him to go up and hit Chris. A smaller man, quite a timid guy. Do you know what I mean? Not aggressive in any way. He's not that kind of guy. You know, there was no consequences. Do you know what I mean? But I think I'd be like, there has to be some sort of repercussions, man. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't take the Oscar away. The brother deserved the Oscar. It was a great film, a great performance. But like the work and this are separate things. But I'm like, let him keep the Oscar, but let him do some jail time. Like I don't see you know what I mean? I just, if I hit someone in the street, if someone hit me, even if I'd done the worst thing, that's still a crime, and everyone knew that. Which is why I wondered whether there was that weird psychotic break thing going on. Let me ask you, can I ask you a question? Let me ask you, because we've sat down and we've had 3 conversations on race, right? With the podcast, right? If you want to check them out, go to the website, check it out. And this has been an interesting thing because obviously this would be majorly different if it was a man or a woman or any combination of black versus white or, you know, Asian versus black or Asian versus white. There'd be a whole other conversation going on that's not going on because this is, you know, for want of a horrible way of putting it, that the media, this is a black on black crime, right? But
well,
after everything we've been through, man, and I know we don't use those terms black anymore. I understand, Shabazz, where we're at, but like for everything we've been through in the last couple of years, man, for 2 men at you could say at the top of their game, winning. Do you know what I mean? Chris Rock, just top baller comedian. Branched out, did Fargo, done some film stuff. Do you know what I mean? Had his troubles, got divorced, all that sort of stuff. And then Will over here, like killing YouTube, just murdering YouTube. Do you know what I mean? And and at the same time, still have his film output. And after all the uproar a couple of years ago with the Oscars, you know, the one back in 2017 where Jada was like, I'm not going because there was no black people nominated for anything. Do you know what I mean? And this is a bad look, right? And
it's a very bad look, yeah.
And has that affected you in any way? Or are you not thinking about it like that, man? Is that not ever crossed your mind, man? Because these are 2, you know, particularly Will Smith, like you say, he is a totem, an emblem of success despite anything that was racked up against him. And he's had box office failures, he's had troubles, but he's got through it with dignity up till this point. And it was just a horrible moment, right?
It was a horrible moment, yeah.
You know, like you follow like Double Toast. You got me on Double Toasted, right? And their conversations, like, you know, then they're like, they ain't never gonna let us host the Oscars again. Do you know what I mean? They're never gonna invite us. It's a hard moment, man.
100%. So obviously in our conversations we established some language and how we communicate or how I communicate about the issues. Racism is a virus of the mind. People who act out of hate based on skin pigment are demonstrating their contagion, demonstrating that they are victims of their own bias. And as a part of that virus of the mind, what also is known as the meme, the meme of skin pigments being given certain attributes or associations. Within that virus and within that meme is the framework of stereotype. You have archetype and you have stereotype. Archetype is the truth, the real, and then the stereotype is kind of like a lesser version of that thing. And unfortunately, in the world that we're in, that is contaminated with the virus of the mind, that is racism, quote unquote racism, because I don't believe in race. In that stereotype exists, unfortunately, the character of quote unquote black people being aggressive. Whether it's the angry black woman or the angry black guy. It's a horrible, ugly stereotype, which I don't believe to be real. I believe that there's commentary and discussion about aspects of it that are real, as there would be aspects of it that aren't. But it's not angry black man, it's just an angry man based on history or based on whatever. But in this unfortunate, contagious filled world, nuance is done away with and no one recognizes two men fighting. They would just see them as two black men fighting, fall into the stereotypes that they've been attributed. Now, obviously, I look and I just see two men, but I know that the world looks and they see two black men, and more so they see an angry black man in Will. And the unfortunate thing with this that makes it even worse, it's like a twisting of the knife, is here is a guy who almost defeated the stereotype because he broke away from being the aggressive one. Like I said, he's not demonstrated. The only time I've seen Will get angry before is when someone tried to kiss him, a reporter tried to kiss him, and he pushed him away. And even then, it was just a little tap. It wasn't like...
if someone kissed me in the street, I'd dash him up the side. It'd be...
Exactly.
But you're right.
He's shown a lot of restraint.
In both sides. So in his personal life and then in his filmography. Like, when has he played a baddie? Like, I suppose Suicide Club was the nearest he got to a bad guy, right? But let's not talk about that. It's a bad example. That'll make me want him to go to jail. But like, he's not fallen into the roles that must have been pushed on him early in his career, man.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean?
And we love him
and and done not done it in spite, like, you know, literally like just gone his own route and ploughed his own route, and it's just like, dude.
And so he falls from a higher pinnacle because he's been raised to this place of you are someone who we would never expect to be violent or aggressive. And unfortunately now he's done something that's completely counter character. It's like a counterpoint of your character, which is why at the beginning of our conversation I've compared him today to the Will Smith of the past. And there's this cognitive dissonance. There's this like, what's going on here? How can I believe that these two people are the same people? Because something has changed in who he is today. But to answer your point and your question, yes, I'm disappointed, even more so because of the demographic that he is from, which is the same demographic that I'm from, that he is now played to a stereotype that I don't believe he belongs in. I don't believe I belong in. I don't believe that the stereotype should exist, but it does, unfortunately. But now that he's done that on such a public platform, he'll never be able to get away with it. And I know you got social credit, and I know he's Will Smith, but right now he's done an injustice to himself, and then unfortunately that stereotype, it's almost reinforced it. And yes, to your point about quote unquote Oscars So White 2017, which ironically was the last time Chris Rock hosted the Oscars and made the joke about Jada. It does feel now as though Oscars so quote unquote black because you've got so much African Americans contributing to this Oscars, and then to have two African Americans clash on stage like this, it does feel like you've spat in the ointment. There's a fly in the ointment now. There's this tarnishing of the brand that would make the Oscars feel like we tried and it didn't work. And that's an unfortunate thing. So for generations to come, and people are probably thinking I'm overestimating this, but it just feels like that's another stereotype we're going to have to try and pull back or destroy. And that's an unfortunate thing.
It is. And like I say, I think the saving grace in the moment of the assault was Chris Rock. Wasn't it?
Come on, man.
That he didn't react, and it was interesting because it happened, and he went, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me, and it was interesting because he almost like third person's like not Will Smith just hit me, and that was interesting. That it was almost like, you know, the person of Will Smith. How am I assaulted by Will? We all know Will Smith. How did Will Smith just assault me? And then he tries to appeal. Then he tries to appeal to kind of Will. He's like, it was just a joke. And then Will was just hitting him with that psychotic break rant thing, just fucking crazy as shit, man.
But that touches on my point about why this is a different Will Smith. And not the man of yesterday. I keep comparing the Will Smith of today to Will Smith of yesterday. Because here's a couple of clues. Chris's body language when Will Smith walks on stage isn't fisticuffs, isn't...
His hands were
his hands are behind his back because he never expects Will Smith to do... He never expects that. And then that's why when he says what he says in the third person, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me. He's speaking like tomorrow's tabloids.
And he's in
what they're
like,
going to be saying
there's
tomorrow.
cognitive dissonance. He can't connect the two. He can't connect the connection of the hit with it's Will Smith. It's like
he's surprised, he's disappointed, and he's horrified that it's happened. And I think many people, I like Russell Brand is a legend.
I've not watched the Russell Brand thing.
You haven't watched the Russell Brand one?
No.
He
I got a family, man. I got stuff to do.
There's a small thing that he does, which like he speaks about Will Smith doing this, Will Smith swearing, get my wife's name out your mouth, and he's saying that to demonstrate that watching it is like watching your childhood being destroyed, because here is a man you love. This is like hearing your granddad talking about something you don't want him to talk about. Probably it is, because it's Will. It's a family man's man. Outside of these marriage and all that, he's a lovely man. And so I think Chris Rock did what everyone else did in there, which was like, Will Smith. What do you mean Will Smith? Will Smith is a stand-up man. And so there's surprise, there's shock, there's disappointment, but most of all, there's heartbreak that the world has changed.
There was a moment where Chris Rock goes, and you could see him. He was just about to nail him, right? Verbally, he was about to do something, and he stopped himself. If you watch Chris Rock again,
really,
he was about to go into it, and he's almost like, almost like I could tear you a new one right now, and he didn't. The fact he didn't strike back, the fact he didn't verbally go there. Do you know what I mean? I think like minimized what could have got worse in the conversation we're just having about these stereotypes and what foolish people would say about, oh look, you know, this is like black anger and the black man. Chris Rock did so much to just reel that back in, man, and just be like.
But that's something the emotional intelligence that Chris Rock demonstrated, the emotional intelligence he demonstrates, is he recognizes in a split second the consequences of actions that he could. Enact. He's a comedian, like he's one of the best, and so he could easily tear into Will. But I think apart from I'm about to give an award to Questlove, I'm about to ruin the Oscars, and I'm about to turn this into a stand-up night rather than like the Oscars. He also recognized that Will is not in himself right now, and so he's unhinged. He's actually quite out of character, and so let me not provoke him, not out of fear. I don't think Chris Rock was fearful. I think he recognized that here's a man who's unstable. If you push him too far, he's gonna crack even more, and that's something none of us want to see, because it's Will Smith. It's Will Smith, and it's interesting. There's a level of empathy there.
I wonder, it's been picked up everywhere. It's like Ukraine. What do you know what I mean? Like petrol prices. What? Like it's like nothing else is going on in the world, right? But it is interesting because it is such a mix of things. It is like. The polished Will Smith, who's always about image, loses it. The reckless comedian who will tear you a new one is in control.
Isn't that
and is
funny?
Measured.
Isn't that funny?
Almost like a swap of roles. And
That is interesting.
Yeah, and like you say, but the one the one thing that no one's able to really talk about that much because they don't really know everything is the Jada element, right? They don't really know what that is all about and where that comes in and out and stuff. But for me, it's interesting, and I've been saying for years, man, even before this whole pandemic flu season thing we've been in, like I've said, particularly with men, like actually everyone, but men in a particular way, there is deep fury just below the surface of most men in the modern life. I think that many men, me and you included, and anyone you know, there's a level of frustration or confusion or having to bite your tongue, and I think there is a pent up rage in men, you know, and whatever it was, and we may never know what it was that really tipped Will Smith over the edge. But he, like I say, I keep saying it, he's an emblem of something in this moment where it's like, we might not all do something obvious and on stage to someone smaller than us, but we will road rage like that.
Yeah, 100%.
We will freak out
100%.
like that. We will break something, not be able to find your camera, not be able to, your phone runs out of charge, someone does something slightly wrong. And we are in, like, you know, turn up to 11 rage. And it's out there in the world, man. And this was like an interesting, like, a place you didn't expect to see it, a public ceremony where everyone's dressed up and eating their lovely food, and from a person you didn't expect it because his rep is, you know, we're Fresh Prince and we're family, and you know,
men are the natural warriors. They actually are. And I know in a day and age when the word nature and natural has, you know, kind of like there is this kind of like dilemma as to how to describe nature and natural. I just use it to say that men are the natural warriors. They are the people in society and culture, no matter how we try to deny it in times of comfort. I think even just what's occurred in Ukraine has demonstrated it, that in a time of war, outside of the time and comfort where we get to actually choose what we want men to be and have these kind of lovely conversations where we agree and disagree on what a man is, at a time of war, the women are told to leave the country with the children and the men stay and fight in their masses. I know that some women have stayed and fight, but if the role of a woman was to be the warrior, we would see those tables turn at a time of war, and that never happens. And so there's something happening in a man's heart that I think is very close to war. And sometimes it is him, like I said, suppressing that war or that conflict or that desire to fight underneath a mask and a face. Because in fact, Will Smith even says that when he gets up. He goes, sometimes you're supposed to just smile and just, you know, just carry on nice. And I think that was a little bit of a confession. Maybe you've been doing that so much that the mask has slipped off now. And we've seen that there's a war happening underneath you. You know, when women have road rage, I hardly ever hear of women actually having road rage. I don't think they go to the extent that I've seen some men, because underneath that road rage is the warrior, the warlikeness. So I think, like, this is what goes back to what I was saying earlier. Rather than us just deciding we don't want to agree with what men are, we should identify who men are so that we can prepare men to face the demon of themselves when that time comes and we hear a joke about our wives, or we're tempted to walk up and slap someone.
Dude. I mean,
I'm a youth leader as well, and I've dealt with a lot of kids on the streets of London who have had to, they've done things like Will Smith, but with knives, machetes, blades, guns, killed people, died themselves, because they haven't been able to handle dealing with the warrior that they are in the right way. And that's why what Will does, it has unfortunate reverberating consequences, because now young people look to him and be like, you know what? I'll just give you a slap like Will Smith. I'm already hearing songs of people rapping about it.
Oh, dude.
But
there's so many jokes, so many memes.
There's so many.
But it is, the other thing in the UK, the other thing in the news over here, you got Will Smith, a little bit of Ukraine around the edge while the Will Smith thing's still going. But then
Ukraine
the other thing
horrible,
is, I don't know if you've seen it, man, but the other thing is, every reporter and radio host worth their salt is asking every politician they can get their hands on, what is a woman?
Oh,
you've seen this?
The what is a woman question.
What is a woman? They've been asking.
Interesting.
And nigh on to a man, they've all ducked the question.
Yeah, but they
and I think so. I look at Will Smith losing his shit, slapping another man on stage for the honor of his wife, who is seeing other men, and they've both agreed that that's cool. And then I see a confusion over here in society about even being able to say a man has a penis and a woman has a vagina. And I draw the two things together. And like you say, I go, oh my gosh, like the role of the warrior, the role of the man with the strength, or the person with the strength. And then over here, the feminine and the nurture. And this confusion, this malaise over what people are, you know, it's everywhere. It's in the conversations that people are having, like my wife as a teacher at school, having in the classroom. It's what people are having on the news and on radio shows. And then now it's at the millionaire gift ceremony.
You need to
where
watch
someone loses their ship and slaps. You know, there is all this stuff is a big soup of confusion in society at the moment. And it's not all based around we need to discover what men is, but we've forgotten what men and women are, and there's a confusion here, and there's been an exchange of power that's not working. And so that's why, like, this will, I know people are just maybe trying to get clicks and get everyone to click on their video about Will Smith and stuff, but for me, I look at it and I go, like, slap thing is whatever it is. He should be charged, whether he will or not, that's up to Chris Rock. But for me, that's what the speech got me. It's like, oh, where are you? You didn't talk about where you were as a man. You talked about what God's telling you to do, which is nice, man. Like, everyone, I want to follow God. I want to do what God wants me to do. But in the midst of it, I'll own who I am. Yeah. But I don't know. I think nowadays people are so, there's such a confusion.
Those who really encounter God, though, own who they are. And it's done in the name of this thing that God's kind of given us called repentance, which is this thing which means you kind of own who you are, and you come to him and you say, you know what, I'm sorry. Not justifying who you are. But to your point about what there's power wants to try and control reality. That's what power does, because reality can be shifted and changed if someone in power wants to demonstrate their power. That's why I have the conflict I have with race. And the viruses of the mind that is, you know, prejudice based on skin pigment that we call racism. It's the powerful seeking to try and change the narrative, change language, change what is real and what isn't. And what we saw, and Russell Brand touches on this really well, what we saw at the Oscar is, in this time when there is this malaise of this unreal world that we will create, where we can ignore a war in Ukraine and just get back to how things used to be, the Oscars, you know, let's just have a fanfare. And not to say that we need to only look at the war in Ukraine, because there's wars all around the world. It's not just Ukraine, there's wars happening constantly. But when the media turn their back on them, those wars almost disappear. There's still issues in Afghanistan. But some people were saying the Oscars might, you know, maybe shouldn't have occurred. Or I don't know if I would have gone that far. But sometimes Hollywood has the power to create a false reality, reality that makes us focus on it and not anything else. And what occurred with that slap almost was like this. It was like, you know, those old vinyl record players, you know, when there's a little scratch in the virus, you know,
it jumps.
If everyone's dancing at that moment, you kind of stop, because it's just such a horrible sound, and it almost wakes you up, and it makes you realize that music is beautiful, but when that scratch occurs, you remember it's coming from that bit of plastic called a vinyl. That slap was like a scratch in the vinyl. It was like this irking sound that woke us up to reality. The reality that the world is an ugly place, and men are different from women, and you know, they act in a specific way that sometimes does play to a stereotype, but also sometimes is a part of their archetype, a part of the archetype of being men who feel that they can defend women with their fists, you know, in this aggressive way. So in this malaise of kind of unreality and this false reality that power is trying to create, came this moment of truth, and it was a horrible truth, but it was real, and that's what's caused people to continue to speak about it, because it was this real moment when actors became reality stars.
Yeah, dude, that's a great take, man. Like reality turned up, man.
Reality turned up, dude,
and it brought a slap with it, man. Do you know what I mean? And the parade of like the pretenders, man, just suddenly like, oh, what you could tell, because you could tell like the crowd went quiet and didn't quite know what to do, but they went. It's the quietness was deafening when he sat down and began to shout. Did you hear the silence?
Yeah, it was horrible.
No, there was like ooh, but then there was like we don't know. It was almost like that they didn't know what to do with a wild man. The wild man turned up, and they didn't know what to do with that level of aggression in that scenario.
In that scenario,
and it is weird, you know. It's like if I went to my girls' school for assembly, do you know what I mean? And in the middle of like, you know, the gift giving for spelling that week, someone started freaking out. It'd probably be the same for me. I'd be like, well, this is the wrong moment for like a raging man to be freaking out. But it is interesting, like you say, in what is possibly one of the most fabricated environments. The Oscars, a bit of reality turned up,
yeah.
Not nice, not varnished, and it happened to come from a man who is very varnished and Mr. Nice.
That's what I'm saying.
So unexpected, man. You know what I mean? Like any other actor, you could feel like in the old days of Hollywood, you know, back in the Marlon Brando and De Niro and Keitel and different people, like you'd expect some a rager to turn up, but not him, man. It's funny, man.
It sounds like a Tom Hardy or a kind of Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
Not Colin Farrell.
Of course.
What's the dude who played Penguin in Batman?
Yeah, you got it right, Farrell.
Colin Farrell, yeah, like the bad boys of Hollywood, like the rough around the edges, of which I would have expected Will to be the guy to come and pull them aside and say, calm down, it's all right, man, everything's all right.
Yeah.
To know that it's him, and that's what I think the silence was. The silence was, oh my God, Will Smith is dead to us. Like it's Will Smith.
Who is this guy?
There's this shot of who's Tom Cruise's ex-wife? Gingerhead lady?
Penelope Cruz.
No. Is it Tom?
Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman. There's this shot of Nicole Kidman, a photographer caught of her reacting.
Well, there's a shot. You've seen there's a crowd shot. There's a crowd shot, and they pan for everyone. You got like The Rock. You got like Denzel. You got all these different people. It might have been on Double Toasted, man.
I didn't see that.
But yeah, basically like looking at everyone's expressions. Everyone's like, it's like it's great, man. It's awesome.
I genuinely think because he's a darling of Hollywood. Like I said, everyone is beyond belief shocked that it's him doing this.
Yeah.
Like I said, how often, and this is the horrible truth about what has happened. When what happened in Russia has happened, it's horrible and it's horrific. We've gone from a pandemic, vaccines, George Floyd, all of the stuff throughout the pandemic, to the potential of nuclear holocaust. And it feels like this is unreal. This is horrible. This is why we're glued to the TV, watching people being bombed that don't believe, that don't deserve it. And yes, it happens in other places, but it's happening in Europe, and everyone's like blown away because it's reality. Just checking in to remind you that I'm still here. Yeah. You haven't got rid of me. And and in one slap at the Oscars, that same kind of reminder, that knock of reality knocks on the door and says, I'm still here. And it's horrible. But we weren't prepared for it, and we weren't prepared who it came through. We were people are prepared for Putin to do the ugly that Putin would do because it's Putin. That's what people have us believe. But in a crazy way, they weren't expecting a Will Smith. And I know it sounds ridiculous. I can't believe I put those two names in the same sentence. But it's what the media are giving us, and we're seeing that's what's grabbed the attention of the world. This real moment of harsh reality that should really and truly wake us up to the truth that we can't get to choose what is real and what isn't. Reality will always determine who it is. You know what I mean?
And I think it's an interesting time, particularly like, I don't know, worldwide really, but particularly for us in Europe and in England, like things are only going to get more real. And if he's like an extreme example of the rage that is underneath the surface for many people, that then with the rising cost of living, the rising cost of fuel, the rising distrust in all politicians and all political parties and all expressions of many expressions of community, it's like this stuff's going to start showing up in the queue at the supermarket. This is going to start showing up in other places. And like I say, this is why I'm constantly like, why has this been so interesting? Yes, because it's Will Smith, but another thing, because it is an emblem of something I think we're all sensing, a dis-ease, and after these 2 years and with the world, the state it's in, things aren't going to go back in the box.
Yeah, that's the truth.
That's the way it was before, man. So we're going to need new box, or we're going to need new pieces.
Wow.
Because it doesn't all go back in. And I find that's what I find interesting in this thing. Do you know what I mean? And what happens now, man? What happens now to Will Smith? Do you think this just he disappears and he does some Oprah shit, or he does some counselling on his channel and that's it? Or do you think he just lays low for a year and then, Bad Boys 4?
So truth be told, controversy sells, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And so if you are wanting to actually, draw people to your brand, he's probably got a string of people that are just ready to package this. And it might be packaged in the form of a Red Table Talk with Chris Rock, where they both speak over that red table, and Facebook has a deal with like all the terrestrial TVs to actually broadcast it live. It can be a conversation with Jada about why he chose to protect her, a conversation with a counselor. I'm going to go to counseling. Here's what I hope happens. I do hope that Will just goes to counseling and he does a Ben Affleck, and he he goes away for a while and he sorts out this anger, and maybe comes back with a testimony of I've seen the wood for the trees now. I couldn't see them before, but I can see them now, and I was wrong, and here's why I was wrong, and gives a cognate, a very clear cut explanation as to what happened, why it happened, and does some mental health thing. People can hate Harry all they want and Meghan and all that, but I do like how Harry kind of aligned themselves with the whole mental health thing. Drawing off personal experiences to try and help people who don't have the platform that they have, that are going through mental health crises. And I would love to see Will Smith become that type of a person. Yeah. With a sincere heart, though, not just with a, let's brand it and put a logo on it and call it a.
And he's positioned to do that. I mean, he's more active on YouTube because of the nature of the medium than he is in film now.
Yeah, he's brilliant on YouTube. And he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's killing it.
He's brilliant as a thought leader and as a influencer. I love when he jumped on Instagram. It was beautiful because you're hearing this guy just offer just this clear cut, like I said, emotionally intelligent sense of insight. That's the thing. The Will Smith I'm comparing of today with yesterday isn't just the yesterday Wild Wild West and you love that and Fresh Prince.
Wild Wild West. I love the song.
I'm comparing the Will Smith of yesterday to the YouTube guy, the guy who's jumped on Instagram and just killed it with regards to his presence. And so for those words, and here's the thing, I'm a man, you know me, dude. I love legacy. Legacy is so crucial. We are alive to create an aspect of who we are going to be after our lives. Because when we die, we leave behind legacy. Legacy is memory that has life, that has resonance. And I want Will Smith's legacy to be sincere, and it's beautiful. And this is a blip, and it could be a blip, but hopefully it's a blip that he's able to heal so that his legacy isn't tarnished. Because that man has so much to have offered and still has so much to offer. He could really turn this around for good in a weird way. That sounds crazy, but turn it around for good by giving him a platform now to speak into a topic. And the thing is though, he does need to do this to some degree with Chris, Yeah. And I think that would be the ideal thing, to almost just sort this out. What was this? Chris, what was that? You've done a documentary about, good hair. You know about the issues of, quote unquote black women having bad hair. Why would you tell a joke about my wife like that? Yeah. Do it in a way that's, talk, language, dialogue. You could demonstrate to the kids that you've given a bad example of, slapping the taste out of someone's mouth. Give those kids an example of, here's how I apologize and here's how I have dialogue, Yeah. Yeah. That's what I hope.
Dude, let me ask you. So, Shabazz, you're an entrepreneur, man. You're a business leader, and you're launching this app, man. So, let me take everyone over to QCast Corner just for a moment, man.
Wow.
Shabazz, so you're an entrepreneur, businessman, youth worker, husband, but also you're an appreneur. Okay, so you're launching this app. I'm trying to get that word out of my mouth properly. You're launching an app, QCast, and this is about the power of questions, man. Do you know what I mean? Questions are the answer, man. Finding the right questions is the thing. So, right coming out of this, man, if you had to pick some questions, man, if you could out of this content that the world has seen, all the stuff with Will and his wife, and it's about marriage and celebrity and losing your shit and composure and all this, what would be, I think I've got maybe one, but like what would be a question you'd want people to dwell on out of this situation, man?
So I would ask people the question, where does your resilience come from when it comes to stopping yourself from doing something wrong? Will Smith was faced with a decision to act or not act, or act differently, and he chose to just act, and it's caused a lot of harm, and it's caused a lot of embarrassment and shame, and the world has changed. Will Smith's legacy potentially might have been damaged as a result of his act on such a public platform. So the question I'd ask you is, if you were faced with such a situation where someone had dishonored you or dishonored a family member, and you had the option to use violence to try and challenge them or change them, what would you do that would prevent you from doing the wrong thing? What could you do? Just speak a little bit about what you could draw on to actually prevent yourselves from acting like Will Smith did.
It's good, man. It's good. I think if the question I'd ask is, I think all of us will find ourselves in some sort of situation over our lifetimes like Will, where we end up presenting a certain appearance of ourselves, a mask, a public persona. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it is, man, it's just not wanting to appear whatever, stupid or poor or whatever it is, man. But my question would be, have a look at yourself. Where are you having to constantly maintain an appearance that's not the core you? Where is it? And are you able to identify that and actually get out ahead of it, where before a crisis snaps you out of your false self, do you know what I mean, and into reality of who you are, which might be furious or upset or wounded? Where can you right now identify a space where there is not a falseness, but a presented self, where actually a curated self, but actually right now you could say, I'm gonna step back from that, and I'm gonna begin to deal out some realness in small portions now to people and in places, so that there is not just an explosion of rawness that comes out. That'd be my question.
Brilliant.
You know what I mean?
Love that. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Go.
So this question's for men. We sometimes can hide behind our wives or our women or the women in our life. We can hide behind them this rage, or we can do rage in their names. What could you do to prevent yourself, when thinking about the women in your life that you have to protect? What could you do that can honor them, that won't bring more harm to them? So for example, if you killed someone because they did something wrong to your daughter, and you were put away in prison, and your daughter then becomes more vulnerable as a result of you being put away in prison, you would regret that act. What could you do to honor your daughter, honor the women in your life, that isn't toxic or doesn't lead to more harm to those women?
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good, man. This has been interesting, man. I don't know how much longer this thing's going to stay circulating in the news and stuff, man. I guess people
think it's here forever, bro.
People are going to be hunting around, man, for Chris Rock, innit, man? He must be the most hunted man on earth at the moment for an interview.
Do you know the crazy thing, Rick? He's going on tour.
Yeah, I know. Can you, like, if he just went home and just started writing shit And he's going to change the name of his tour, and he just goes buck wild on Will Smith, man. It could go badly. But
he's going to turn it into and he's going to angle it really well.
Yeah.
It's not done any harm to his career because
no, he's come off pretty well in it, man. He's come off pretty well in it.
And it's beautiful that he almost doesn't need money to come off more well by suing Will Smith.
Yeah, no, there's totally that. It was interesting that, like I say, these two, millionaire, successful, top of their game guys got into this. Do you know what I mean? It does raise the stakes and it lowers them as well. It's interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like if it was a successful and a struggling actor or actress, whatever, then it would have been a different thing. But dude, it's so interesting, and I'm looking forward to like seeing. That sounds bad. I'm not like thirsty for like more trouble, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, man. And I wouldn't rule out an Oprah or a therapy series, man. But like you, I think the wisest thing to do is to do it in the dark, off stage left, mate. Sort your stuff out, mate, and come back when you're ready, man. Anyway.
Yeah. Because doing it in the light right now.
Yeah.
I think one thing that we can see from Will Smith's life.
Yeah.
And Jada Pinkett and his family is that the public stage doesn't necessarily do you much good.
No.
Do you much good for the wholesomeness of your family or the wholesomeness of your relationships. The public stage just makes you a target. And so there's evidence that doesn't work. And so we'd want his counselling to work if he does go to counselling. Yeah. So doing it in the dark is going to be a lot better than doing it on a public stage.
Yeah. Sweet, man. Thank you, brother. This has been fun.
I really love talking to you, as you know.
That's good, man. That's been good stuff. Thank you. Shabazz L Graham, ladies and gentlemen. Sweet.